Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Gonna go for two here. For two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Okay, welcome in. Going for two, presented by Joe Cools today. And as you can see, we have a special guest. But before we get to you, Liam, don't take this personally, okay? Before we get to you, we had something huge happen over the weekend. We finally hit one of our Super Boost boys. We did it. We did it.
Just in time for the fireworks on the weekend, right?
Yeah. And we were
Cool
getting...
bet thought they had us, but we got them.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it took us 100 tries, and we probably gave up way more money than anybody won back. But we finally got one, so we're happy to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few people reached out that finally got the win too, right? Get the monkey off their back.
Yeah, you know, we like some of the friends of the show, like JD and Pat, were pretty happy for the boys. But the big one was we had a future Olympian for curling, and you know, yeah, that was a big one. We're not going to say her name on here because we don't know if she wants to. We don't know if she wants her name said on the show, so we're going to leave it at that. But that was a big pull. We were excited to talk to her.
That's
so
cool.
Yeah, let's go right into it. Let's introduce. We were rude. Let's introduce Liam. Currently playing for the Hamilton Bulldogs, right?
Correct.
All right. So this is Liam Loon. So talk to us, man. Talk to us. Tell us about your career a little bit.
Yeah, so I've been with Hamilton since I was 16. Drafted in the third round of the OHL priority selection. 16-year-old year, I was up and down with the Ancaster Avalanche and Hamilton, and I was fortunate enough to win the Ontario Hockey League. We won the championship there, got to go to the Memorial Cup, and then got to be part of this an amazing group the past couple of years, rebuilding and getting ready to go for it again coming up shortly.
Nice. And you got any of the guys that you were playing with on that Cup team they're in the playoffs right now?
Yeah, Robert Thomas, he just got out with the Blues. Yeah, other than that, just a couple guys that aren't playing in the playoffs right now, but Nick Camano's with the Dallas Stars. Mackenzie Entwistle's been up and down with Chicago. Riley Stillman's in Chicago. So yeah, there's a good chunk of guys either in the pros or in pro, whether it be the NHL, AHL, ECHL, or overseas.
Nice, yeah. And we do have a rule on the show. When you do make it big, Liam, because we have faith in you, you can't forget about the little guys. So when you are a pro and when you're back in the dressing room in Hamilton or wherever you go next, you can't forget about the boys just because.
I definitely won't.
All right. So I'm assuming, being a big hockey guy, I'm assuming you watch a lot of hockey as well, right?
Yeah. Growing up and even now with playoffs coming around and whatever, I've been pretty much glued to the TV.
Perfect. So Chad has had a question, and this was a burning question over the last probably 4 or 5 days. So I'm going to let him take it away for a sec and talk to you a little bit about it.
So obviously we all saw it happen to John Tavares.
Yep.
It was a fluke. It happens. We all came from a different generation where what is it Figliano? I don't know, probably to butcher his name like I always do with everybody's names. What him and Perry did. Now a lot of people online are getting heated about it, saying there was no reason for that fight. Me growing up, that like whether it was an accident or not, he was doing it to get his guy's mind off of what just happened and get their heads back wrapped around. So I saw the reason for the fight, but a lot of people are saying there was no reason for it. As someone that's still playing hockey, but also a generation kind of behind us, how did you think that went? Like, did it go down the right way, or were you for it or against it?
I agree with the fight, and I agree with how it actually happened a lot better than as a player you think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
For that, that's not a fight for payback, for hurting him because he hurt one of your star players. It's that all that gets thrown out the window in that situation. It's he answered the bell. and he answered it properly. It's playoff hockey. That's if it was regular season, if it was exhibition games, if it was playoffs, it would happen. And it's not even sticking up for your teammates. It's more just keeping the game going. It had to happen.
I personally feel that he let I think he could have like stole Perry's soul if he wanted to. I think he kind of went easy on him.
Yep.
And I think but that was like the whole point. I don't think he had any intention of hurting Perry. I think it was just one of those things. He's like, I have to get my boys back head in the game, so I'm going to drop the mitts and do this. And like I said, I think he went easy on him. It was just more or less to get the guys' heads back into the game.
Yeah, you hear a lot about the big momentum shifts and how the ice can tilt into either or direction. In that situation, it's not tilted in either team's direction. It's tilted actually the complete opposite way. And just in my personal experience, if that ever happens to a first liner or a fourth liner where they get hurt and it's pretty serious, there's that part of you who just kind of doesn't want to play that game anymore. And if something like that happens, a big fight, a big hit, anything like that, it brings that competitiveness right back into it, and you're ready to go.
So what do you think about Versteeg coming out? Right? He made a little bit of waves there the following day, and the comments he made talking about the original hit from Sherratt and how that was a dirty hit from the get-go, and that's what originated from this whole thing spiraling out of control as it did. Do you think it was a dirty hit? Was it a knee on knee, or do you think the guy was just trying to finish a check and Tavares made a last-second maneuver away at the blue line?
I've actually been in Tavares' situation. Obviously, I didn't get kneed in the back of the head, but I tore my meniscus doing that exact same thing. But it was a guy stepping up and finishing a hit, and I tried to jump out of the way, and that's what happened in the end. I think, especially in the playoffs, refs are going to let you play, and it's finishing a hit. In the playoffs, you need, especially Montreal in the situation they're in, because on paper they shouldn't be anywhere close to the Leafs right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But they are, and it's a big part with that hitting and that physical play. And Sherratt's just doing what he's been told to do and what the game plan is, which is every chance you get, you bump one of the big stars, or you bump anybody, no matter who it is. I think he was just finishing his hit, and Tavares tried to jump out of the way like any player would have done. And unfortunately, what happened, but there's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah.
And
stay relevant a little bit, I think, there.
have they come out and said that he's done for the season or the series? I mean, the series for sure, right?
There's no way he's playing this year.
Yeah.
I think I look back to that concussion that Crosby had and how small that was, how small of a hit it almost kind of looked like. And this is a pretty big one. I think they said at least 2 weeks, but I mean, realistically, the guy's not coming back.
Well, like as somebody that's been knocked out on more than one occasion in his life, like my last one was 9 months that I could before I finally felt okay.
And that wasn't a batted knee on skates flying at your head either.
No, it wasn't. I didn't see the uppercut coming. That's all I'm gonna say. I fell forward, Caitlin. If you want to know how hard I got hit, I fell forward.
Knocked out face down. That's awesome.
And that was 8 months, and that was with no contact. And the only thing I was doing was going to work. It's when I worked with Shane at the restaurant, and I had a lot of issues. And I'm not trying to get back into a game like the NHL. So hopefully for him, he recovers obviously significantly faster. At that point, I had lots of them before then. But I don't know his concussion history. But like with the way they're controlling and policing the players now with player safety, and especially with head trauma injuries, all these things that are coming up between the NHL and the NFL, it's going to be tough to get him back. There's no way he plays this year. Like I would say, I think Christmas is a real timeline. I know some people don't want to hear that, but that's a realistic number. I feel. Like I'm sure Liam, you've had guys probably go through the protocol on your end, and it's pretty serious.
Yeah, like I've seen everything from guys playing the day after when they shouldn't, and guys being out for a year and a half. the thing about Tavares is he's such a big part of that group, right? Like just his presence in general, not just his play, because we all know he's a top player in the NHL, but just the way he carries himself, the impact he has on every single player. I think after that hit and after what happened, the Leafs can become an even more dangerous team than they are if they take this the right way. That moment's either going to kill their playoff run or it's going to bring them together in a way that no other team is going to have that, and every team in their way should watch out.
Right, right, and yeah, I mean, playoff runs they come to an end really quickly, and two teams that kind of met that demise quickly were the Capitals and the Blues, and we don't want to attack the Blues because now that we know you have a buddy that plays for the team, that's not really. But I mean, personally, I don't think that they stood a chance going into that series. They kind of ran into a buzzsaw there, and I know that's Chad's Stanley Cup pick is Colorado, so I mean his feelings aren't hurt over there. But Leo, did that surprise you how quickly the Blues got rolled and how quickly things really turned for the Capitals as well?
For the Blues, Colorado's just a wagon. Like that team, front, back, side to side, that team is just built for regular season, for playoffs, for doing damage, no matter where they are. You've got a team that you can pretty much roll lines, and they can shut teams down, they can score, they can block shots. And then you got a player like McKinnon who is a force to be reckoned with and has his eyes on the prize. That team you need to watch out for. So that one didn't really surprise me. Boston was my pick from the start to win these playoffs. Yeah, they were my pick from the start.
Don't tell me you're a Taylor Hall fan, Liam. I don't want to hear about it.
No, not just that. I think they have that, like, just that core. It's hard to beat that experience, especially at the age that they're at. And yeah, they lost a couple pieces, but they did really well to bring in more pieces to offset it. And I think they could go on a big run here. But I thought Boston would have lost one or two more. Like, I thought that was going to 6 or 7. I didn't think that was going to go that quick.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, especially after the way that game one ended, right? With that, like, that was a gut-wrenching overtime win for Washington. You'd think that a team like Boston would take a couple games, at least a game, to rebound from that. But no, they jumped right in and took control of them. So for a team like Washington, like I said, like the Blues, like we kind of expected that. For a team like Washington, Alexander Ovechkin's 13-year contract has now expired. So what would make him go back and want to sign with those guys? And does that mean that Washington is kind of finished?
He's in a tough situation. I think we can't answer that question as fans or even the media because we don't know. Washington's good at keeping everything behind closed doors. You don't know really what the room atmosphere is like. And I think that as a player, I think that was the biggest reason why they went out so quick. Because it doesn't make sense. The way they played that game one and then all of a sudden just going downhill that badly, it had to have been dressing room or something, character, I don't know. But something had to have switched or snapped or whatever in order to get that to happen.
Right. And Kalen, I know you followed a lot of Ovechkin, and Chad, obviously the same thing. Like, what do you guys think? Could you see Ovechkin in a different uniform?
100%. There's no loyalty in this game anymore, man. He owes the city of Washington nothing. He gave
him a championship.
He gave him a championship. He's put 700 goals in the net, I believe. He's probably the best Washington has ever been is the last 15 years since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
He was the face of the franchise. I think they are on a decline. They have no goaltending. They couldn't keep up with that Boston team at all. So unless they go in and put a lot of pieces around him, I don't see what would make him want to stay if he could go to a contender. Because he can still score. And if I have a team that's right there and I can bring in a guy like Ovi, why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
And the guy shows up every night. He doesn't take nights off.
So, I'm going to kind of counter you there, Chad, a little bit. I think that like him coming into the league with like we talked about this earlier this year. Did we see Crosby going to another team ever? I don't really think that could ever happen. And I think that Ovechkin is kind of the same way. Liam mentioned that Washington's pretty tight to their chest about anything they're doing. Ovi has been pretty tight to the chest about this entire thing too. I don't think there's been very many questions asked or any answers given this entire year about what his thought process may be. The goaltending thing. They went into the season with Henrik. Like that was a detrimental loss weeks before the season started to have a goaltender like that go down. Now, Henrik is on the other end of his career. Let's be honest here. But he's certainly an upgrade over what they had there. If Henrik can come back and even play 80% of what he was doing in a Rangers uniform, I think that Washington still is a tough team. They still have grit. They still have that playoff type of like toughness about them. But I think that Henrik not being there was the biggest loss to them this year, for sure.
Right. So we can move from Washington, and we'll move to another team with a superstar. That what do you do with a guy like this? And I mean, the Edmonton Oilers, like, what can they do with a guy like McDavid now that they clearly can't get over the hump? They have absolutely no idea what's going on over there. Yesterday was one of the worst blown leads I've ever seen in hockey, let alone playoff hockey. And Liam, like, what do you think of what's going on in Edmonton right now?
I think they rely on him way too much, just way too much, and it's getting to the point where he feels isolated in a way. Like I would love to see Draisaitl put on another line, and his production. That's nothing against Draisaitl. Draisaitl is still going to be a top player in the league, arguably top 10, top 5, wherever you want to place him. But I would love to see that and see either how much better or how much worse they could get. Like, it's McDavid. You've got teams like Pittsburgh did it with Crosby when Crosby came in. But they did it instantly. It's going to probably start from head office and go trickle down. But then again, you raise the point, how many times have they made the moves in head office? How many times have they made the moves in the coaching? How many times have they made moves in net, on the back end, on the front end? Something's got to give at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's been 6 years, right?
Yeah. 4 years left, 5 years left?
No, but I mean, he's been there for 6 years. Like, there's been no headway. And a year like this year, when you think they're starting to make a little bit of progress, they seem worse. They seem more shell-shocked than ever.
Yeah, they hit that depth over in Winnipeg for sure that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, there's just, from top to bottom, Winnipeg is an incredibly deep team. Edmonton is just Edmonton over and over again, right? I think that I don't know if you guys were watching the game, but when the goal was scored and the camera cut to McDavid's reaction, that was a more defeated, lost look than I think I've ever seen him have in the past. And it should be. Absolutely. I mean, the way they lost, that should be a real kick in the groin, and it should be the worst feeling you have of your career so far. But it just looked to me like he just started to look around like, why the fuck am I here? Like, what am I doing here anymore? Right?
Right.
So,
right. Well,
changes afoot, maybe. Yeah,
I mean, it's not going to surprise me. And Chad, like, what did you get to see all the blown stuff yesterday?
No, I saw it was 4-0. I went to bed, and then I woke up and they lost, or 4-1 or whatever it was, and I woke up and they lost, and I literally started shaking my head. Like, I didn't know what else to say. Like, I just laughed about it, and I was like, Edmonton's just Edmonton. That's the best way to put it. Like,
right.
They'll find a way to lose. It's the playoffs. Either they're at the bottom of the basement every year, now they get in the playoffs, and this is what we're expected to see. So,
right. Well, it seems like majority of the playoff series in the first round might be wrapped up at the end of today, but I picked 3 out, and I want to know if you think that any of them are going to 7, or if all 3 of them, or 2 of the 3. So we got the Pens, the Islanders, the Leafs and the Habs, and the Preds and the Canes. Out of those 3 series, which ones are going to 7, and which ones are going to be wrapped up before that?
Well, I think Leafs and Habs getting wrapped up before that, and Preds and Canes going to 7. That's what I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
And what
I
about
agree.
the Pens and the Islanders? You think that's a 7-gamer?
I don't. I think that the Islanders are a feel-good story, but I do think that in the end, Pittsburgh overtakes them in 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only series going 7 is that Canes and Preds series.
Which is so fun to watch, man. That is such a back-and-forth series.
I like the fact that those places are both sold out.
Yeah. But did you see Taylor Lewan banging
Yeah.
out beers yesterday?
Yeah,
He was having fun.
That's awesome.
he was in a good place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Liam, what about you? Do you think any of these games are going to 7? Or any series are going to 7?
Islanders series is going to go to 7, 100%. And that Canes and Preds series will most likely.
Oh, so he's calling a 7-game series of the Islanders in Pittsburgh, huh? All right.
Yeah, my old coach actually coaches the year we won. He coaches now with Barry Trotz in New York, and yeah, that's just me knowing a little extra. But the way they play, and if they get up early in a game, the ability that they have to shut that game down is like nothing I've ever seen. It could honestly be. People say the next wave of hockey is with speed and with skill, like McDavid. I think it could go the total opposite way, and it could be the Islanders.
And you know who runs the Islanders, Liam? Lou Lamoriello, right? He's bringing New Jersey hockey back again. The '90s hockey is going to be the future again. There we go.
Hey, man, it's
Loved
like fashion. Everything goes in a circle.
That's right, man. That's right. I get to hear about that trap all over again.
The NHL is so excited.
Yeah. All right. Liam, we appreciate you coming on, man. We're not going to take up any more of your time, but like I said, don't forget about the little guys when you're a big guy, okay?
I definitely won't.
All right, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, man. See you, brother.
All right. Yeah, Liam's a good kid. We should definitely have him on a little bit deeper in the playoffs and get some breakdowns. Especially, I mean, if he thinks that that's the new way of hockey, like I don't know, I might have to get back my hockey fandom. But let's go into something a little bit, maybe a little bit more near and dear to our hearts. So we are going to talk about our friend Julio Jones, who in our mock draft I had him being traded to the Packers for their first round pick, which clearly didn't happen. But I mean, we're still here, right? So let's think of some landing spots for Julio Jones. I mean, obviously everything happened today with whatever Skip Bayless's partner is there.
Shannon
All the
Sharp,
bookings.
For
Yeah.
anybody who didn't get the
Fucking
opportunity to see it, they calls him, doesn't even tell him he's alive on air, and then basically sewers him. What I loved about the whole thing was him saying he didn't want to go to the Cowboys because he wants to win right now. If that's my only takeaway, man, I'm leaving happy.
Yeah, and that is pretty classic.
Yeah.
And I mean, Chad obviously sent us that picture of him working out with Derrick Henry. So I mean, I don't know what
Like
that
how
looks
hard?
like in your.
How hard was your boner, Kalen? Like,
Buddy,
I
I'm
could see
getting
it.
excited.
I could see it.
I don't know if you guys are paying attention or not, but there's some betting websites across the board right now that have Tennessee as the #1 odds taker for where he
I
can
saw the
land.
Chargers today with the front.
And if he goes, it doesn't look to me like he's going to land in the NFC. So I think I can strike almost every team off the NFC's list. But in the AFC, the Chargers would be a prime pick. Indy, prime team for him to go to as well. New England, of course, was rumored in that idea.
I don't know if
32 years
Carson
old,
Wentz has the arm for him though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was
Like, he
32
needs a
years
big
old,
arm
had some
quarterback,
nagging
right?
Injuries. He only had 3 touchdowns last year. Calvin really took over for that team. So what does he got left in the tank? I think he's got a lot left if he doesn't have to actually be the full #1.
Yeah,
Right?
if he could be a #2 receiver, then like he's a compliment piece.
Yeah,
Like, whoever gets him is gonna be a fucking happy team.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
one happy quarterback.
that's right. And if we're going to be talking about landing spots, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with Bud Dupree, and I'm going to put that mojo out there and say that I do hope that he lands in Tennessee. If we can replace Corey Davis with Julio Jones and losing Jonnu Smith, that's a great
That's an
upgrade for
upgrade.
me. I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah. It would be. I mean, it would be nice for you to know what it feels like to have a #1 receiver on your team, also.
Shut your mouth. AJ already said he'd give up a number 11, so that's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah,
AJ
because he knows he's not the guy.
Yeah,
Oh, enough of that.
yeah.
You walked into that one. You doubt to yourself, Kalen.
Yeah.
You know,
Where do you guys think that he could land though? If I'm picking Tennessee, I'm not just being a homer here. I do think that that's a legitimate spot, and so
I
do a lot
do
of
think
people.
Tennessee is like a legit spot for him. I think he likes the Alabama ties with Henry there. He does have AJ Brown is a pretty good fucking receiver. As much as I rip on you, and it will actually make Julio not be the guy. He can go in there and just do it. Like you can't double team both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Tennessee is unfortunately like your defense needs some work, but you are getting better. But same kind of thing what I said with the whole Ovechkin thing. He wants to go to a team that's going to win now, and you guys are on the cusp. Yes, it all depends who else comes out after him. I think, but at the same time, the Falcons said they want a 1. I don't think they're going to get a 1 for him. So it all depends. Who's going to put in the best bundle package for him?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where he's going to go.
Well, and I mean, I don't know how much say they're actually going to give to him as far as like, we want to move you here. Like, what do you think? Like, is his agent seeking out the trade? But the Arizona Cardinals make a lot of sense again. And it's because a guy like Nuke has said that he will take a pay cut if the Cardinals can go get him. And imagine if they have Julio Jones, Hopkins, AJ Green, and I mean, who else? Who else is it? Like James Conner will be there for a couple weeks until he gets hurt.
Is he? I know you're not. I know you're not hot on him, but I love
Christian Kirk's still there too, and that guy's not bad either.
Yeah, I bet you that this Isabella kid or this Christian Kirk kid, like they would have to be included in the trade. Like if you could give us like a second round pick plus a couple of pieces, those are probably the pieces that that a team like Atlanta would need and want to go for.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you think?
I would just be worried about like if you're giving up a speed guy because Julio doesn't have that step anymore. AJ Green definitely doesn't have that step anymore. So do you want to give away your burner? Like, yeah, they could box anybody out. But that'd be my only concern. Like a kid like Isabella can fly. Christian Kirk, but I can see Christian Kirk being the odd man out there in that scenario. Huge upside too with him. He can play the slot, so that keeps Ridley out wide. So yeah, like I think Christian Kirk could be a piece there with a high draft pick. I just don't see anybody giving up a first round pick for a guy on the back end of his career at the receiver position.
Right.
Receivers don't play till 45. He's got 3 years in him, maybe.
Well, I'll give you another landing spot, and this is one that I mean, it kind of ties two pieces together. The Raiders go and get Aaron Rodgers and Julio Jones.
Whole lots of wheeling and dealing there for Mayock and company, huh?
But it's time, right? Like this is what, like year 5 for Gruden, year 4 for Mayock, or year 3 for Mayock. It's time to start showing some progress, and what they've been drafting hasn't been working. They clearly showed that getting rid of a guy like Khalil Mack, as much as it didn't make sense at the time, might make a little bit of sense now because they wouldn't want all that money tied up into a defense when the rest of their team stinks. But if Aaron Rodgers is recruiting, they already have a running back. They have Ruggs there too already. Bring in Julio. They got Waller. The offense is starting to look pretty good to a guy like Aaron Rodgers right now, don't you think? Could you imagine, Ricky, if the Packers traded him to the Raiders?
Oh, we wouldn't hear the end of it. God, he hasn't experienced a good. Well, I mean, Derek Carr is an okay quarterback, but he's experienced a good quarterback.
Derek Carr is not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. When was the last time that the Raiders had a good quarterback?
Rich Gannon, 2002.
That would have to
be. We fucking
right?
shit on them.
Like I guess the only stopgap between him and now would have been Jason Campbell, if you want to consider him to be good.
Right? And Jason Campbell was not good.
No, exactly. But there's such a giant gap of time there. That's insane.
I think the last time they had a quarterback other than Derek Carr that was winning games was Terrell Pryor.
Oh Lord.
I
got one more dark horse for Julio in the AFC, and this is I think this could the Bills, man. They have the cap room. I know that they're very high on their draft capital, so they're not usually apt to trade it. But your window's right now. You're on that contract right now to make it happen. So that could be a team that they're just one stopgap away because their defense is already built. My God.
Yeah, well, that would be an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I know that the Patriots get floated around, but the Patriots get floated on everything. It's like you see a Bleacher Report thing. It says the Patriots show interest in Julio Jones. Like, yeah, so did every other fucking team in football.
Do you think any, like, not one receiver's ever said, I want to go play with Cam Newton?
Right.
Even in his prime, no receiver said that.
No.
So I'm not buying it now.
But I'm also not convinced that Cam Newton's a week 1 starter.
Okay,
No, yeah.
that bag of milk is not starting.
That beat writer, whoever wrote that quote, whoever came out with that, was just trying to get clicks, 100%.
Yeah, you know, it's like, this NFL team's interested in winning football games. That's rich.
Yeah.
If I would have said that, they would have said, "Who the fuck is Chad Stewart?"
Yeah, yeah. People out there hate you, Chad, but that's okay. We don't.
Put it on my tab.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna kind of tie this next question together with what we've been talking about. So, it came out today that Aaron Rodgers has been approaching players about creating a super team. Now, that super team will not be created in Green Bay. So, where would make sense to create a super team? I mean, I guess I already gave you my answer, so I'll let you guys come up with your own.
I'm done with these. I don't even want to put that out there, man. I'm done with this super team stuff you've seen across all the leagues. There's already one in the NFL. Chad's going to love me hear me say it, but it is the friggin' Buccaneers already. We don't need
Tampa Tom, baby. Everybody loves that guy.
Yeah, we don't need a second one of those teams, superstar teams.
I mean, think of it like the Raiders could not only get Aaron Rodgers, but they could probably get Deshaun Watson for pretty cheap to be a backup. And then in a few years when Aaron's ready to move on, you got a pretty talented backup there.
Yeah.
That sounds like the Tampa Bay way, right?
Maybe he'll go to Tampa and be the backup.
Yeah. That's the Tampa way. You never know, man.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians can convince anybody.
Well, if he's going to make a super team, I think they'd have to stay in the NFC, though. Like the AFC, it's almost, you're lucky to be in the NFC at this point. Really, like there's only about 2 or 3 good teams, and the rest of them are just going to be a bunch of crapshoots. And then you've got a bunch of dogs in the AFC. From 1 to 7, you've got a bunch of players, and then 8 through 11, you've got some really good squads too that can really make some noise.
I think it just comes down to like who wants a quarterback now, because there's so many young ones in the league already.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers and give a young quarterback, you literally just took a shit on their chest and said, "Fuck you." It's true though. Like if you bring in a quarterback who like you said is your future, but yeah, if you get Aaron Rodgers, you're gonna go do it. But that means you've automatically ex-nayed that young quarterback.
Right.
It's that simple. And not too many guys are gonna pull the Mitch Trubisky and just go be a fucking young kid's backup.
All right. Well, let's talk about then. Okay, so just like expanding on your point, what like first year, second year, or third year caliber player that's on the uprise would you trade to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers? Like if you were a team and you're like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers can help us win now, as opposed to potentially winning 3 years from now.
A team like there's 2 teams that stand out to me. One is the Denver Broncos. It still makes sense. Number 2, the Washington Redskins. They don't have anybody.
Football team.
Yeah, them too. You don't have a starting like you're rolling into the season with this Heineke kid and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ship out one of those 2 guys. Send a first-round pick. It might cost you 2 firsts, whatever. But you're getting a guy, and the Washington their defense is ready to play football now. They have Terry McLaurin. Aaron Rodgers never had a stud receiver besides Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. He makes like him and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. They made receivers amazing receivers. So a team like Washington makes sense. A team like Denver makes sense. Outside of that, I don't see too many teams that you'd want to give up on your future with yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, obviously, like the Chiefs are pretty set, so like I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going anywhere. But what like Justin Herbert? Would you?
I wouldn't cash him in. That kid's like as much as I did not like that pick, I've said now numerous times I was wrong. That kid's going to be a star. I don't think you can say no to him. And I don't think you can just take him and then put a guy like Rodgers in. And for 5, I think Herbert's going to be a star in this league for a long time.
So yeah, I mean, you at that point you'd be selling the next 5 years for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
But if
and
you
I don't
could,
think San Diego's in that place or LA. Wow, I'm really bad at this today.
yeah,
I just don't think the Chargers are close enough that if I'm Aaron Rodgers, that's where I would go.
all right. Kale, do you have any young quarterbacks that you think are on the upswing that you would trade for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I mean, the problem is that I don't know if there's anybody upswing that's enough to overtake what they think they may already have in Jordan Love. Like the NFC team that I think of that could make a move and be on the uptick, a big jump there in a weak division is somebody like the Eagles. I mean, they're pretty handcuffed right now money-wise, but is Hurts their answer? I don't think he's proven enough on the field for him to be trade value, and he certainly, I don't think, is worth more than Jordan Love at this point either. So,
Well,
that makes
no,
a lot of
but
sense.
that's actually a really good team to bring up, and I think it's a good one to talk about. So we don't even have to trade Jalen Hurts to the Packers. If you're the Packers and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna get 2 first-round picks from the Eagles and maybe a second-round pick from the Eagles. And if you're the Eagles, you're looking at like, okay, we could actually get a quarterback and get these fans off our back for the next 6 years. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a guy like Jalen, does anybody think that Jalen Hurts is going to be like a perennial all-star or superstar in the league?
Howie Roseman. That's I think the only person right now.
Anybody outside of Philadelphia?
No.
I mean, I don't think Dick Saban thinks that.
Yeah. He's going to be
people in Philadelphia think Rocky's a real person, so they might think that Jalen Hurts is the next star. But that just shows their intelligence.
Jeez, you were going after people today. Okay, well, yeah, no, you know what? Like that's a good one to keep an eye on though, because I hadn't thought Aaron Rodgers to the Eagles, but that actually makes a lot of sense. So, and I wanted to correct you on one thing, Chad. You were talking about quarterbacks that make receivers. I'm going to put Ben Roethlisberger in there too because that guy has made a lot of receivers.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I'm just saying, right? Like elite quarterbacks. And when Ben was in his prime, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
he got a lot of receivers paid.
He sure did.
But yeah, like I think so. A guy like Rodgers can do that with a lot of with some players that in these other cities. So a team like Washington or Denver, like Jerry Jeudy's ceiling is so high, and we might never get to see it. Like that's the scary part about the Denver situation.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, another one to chew on is okay. So would you give up on Daniel Jones for Aaron Rodgers?
All day.
Don't look at me like that, Shane. I can see my eyes aren't even open. I can tell you're looking at me like that. It definitely makes sense. If it's Aaron Rodgers for Danny Dimes, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. All right. Well,
they haven't paid Danny yet. I think that's the big thing, right?
Right.
He's going into that year where they have to make that choice. So if they're gonna pull the plug, it has to be now.
And I could be wrong here, but like, does the contracts not line up? A-Rod's ending, Danny Dimes, having
they'd have to
the
pay
option.
the extension though. That'd be the big thing, right? And then you'd be paying $25 million to a guy like Jones to sit on the bench for 1 year. I think that would be the only issue.
Right. Well, you would assume that a guy like that would go back in the package, but here we're talking about making some money. So I was perusing through my sports betting page. Actually, I was on the Bleacher Report, and I saw a bet on there. A guy bet $700 that the Browns were going to have the worst record in football next year. Now
that guy's got $700 more than me then.
Yeah.
I would not have made that bet.
No.
Yeah.
This guy must have not watched any offseason news and know who the Houston Texans are.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, we're not saying that the Browns are going to be good. We're just not saying they're going to be the worst team in the league. But the payout is $175K if it hits.
That's insane.
So, Chad, do you think that this bet is placed on Coolbet, and do you think that they still need a breathalyzer?
I don't care what site he did it on. They should have gave him a breathalyzer.
Jeez.
Absolutely. If we're talking a crazy bet, Shane, I don't know if you heard me telling this one to Shad earlier or not, but somebody, Tyson Campbell, there was a pre-draft wagering system for him, and they listed him as a safety. So some host from ESPN put $3,500 down that he would be the first safety drafted, and of course he was drafted as a corner. Well, that $3,500 turned into $300,000. Pretty nice.
Really?
Deal, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, pretty intense.
Well, that's a pretty big mistake
Loophole.
in that sports book.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sports book. That guy's probably fired. That bookie's gone.
I don't even think,
Or
if I
dead.
remember right, I think I barely even remember any mention during the combine of that guy becoming like a transition safety. There was never a talk about it. He certainly has the frame to do it, but everybody that talked about him talked about his length at corner and how that was an asset. Never thought about or talk about turning him to a safety. So I don't know what the hell I was thinking over there, that betting website, like you said.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that guy's gone, so we don't have to worry about it.
Gambling's not shady at all. So that guy's now swimming with the fishes.
Yeah, he's gone. Now, Drew Brees obviously walked away from football. We assume that he's going to be an analyst for NBC because that's what the report is. Now, I turn on the NFL Network today and I see that he's working out with Russell Wilson, and they're working on trust throws, which I thought it was the coolest drill I've ever seen for a quarterback. Chad, did you see the drill?
No.
Okay, so he's taking the snap from the quarterback coach, and in this spot it's Drew Brees, and the receiver runs past a tent, so he loses him. So they're called trust throws. So he's just making throws and seeing if the guy can come out the other side with it.
Huh.
Yeah, go look at it. I think they got highlights on Bleacher Report, so check it out after here. But like, it was pretty interesting. Like, it's a pretty big tent. It's like that thing that I had set up in my backyard, Chad, but like a longer version of it. So yeah, he couldn't see, so he has to get it over the tent and to the guy, which I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting for a quarterback to be able to do something like that.
Oh yeah, and to be the receiver, like imagine the adjustment you have to do mid-run. That's crazy.
Right, yeah, because you're not going to see the ball till it comes over the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, the question that I was going to ask is, does Drew Brees have coaching in his future above being a broadcaster? Like, could you see him on the sidelines? Go ahead.
Can I just say what the first question should be?
Yeah.
If you're Sean Payton, how pissed off are you he's helping Russell Wilson and not Jameis Winston? That's my first question.
But I'll bet you that it's Drew Brees' tent, and he probably doesn't want holes in it, so he had to give it to somebody that's not going to fucking throw the ball through it. Also, there's never been a sentence that says trust with Jameis Winston in it. So
not inside of 10, I'll tell you that much.
Oh my God.
Rough.
Yeah.
That one really snowballed for you, didn't it, Shane?
Yeah.
You would have pushed it down the mountain a little bit, and Chad made sure to give it a good kick.
Hey, there's nothing that doesn't snowball when it comes to conversations with Chad.
I'm only ever looking for the positive, guys.
As far as a coaching career,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, he didn't have anybody that backed him up that really left and went somewhere else and, became a career quarterback somewhere. There was never, ever, ever any stories coming out of New Orleans about him being this mentor to anybody coming through the ranks outside of maybe Taysom Hill. And I think he was kind of pushed into that scenario. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe he's just working out with Russell because, you know what? I'm retired. I got nothing better to do than hang out with my boy, and I want to see him get better, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Manning didn't do any of that shit, but he's always being talked about in coaching jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's true, yeah.
Well, like, he's always had his camps, right? I think it just went under the radar because we just didn't see it. Like, he went back, he does high school camps all the time in Louisiana. He's one of those guys. And maybe he just does love football, but he doesn't like throw it out there, so it's all over the social medias that we see him doing these things.
Right.
And there was also times that I can specifically remember about Peyton Manning, the stories, more than one occasion where either a coach made a call on the sideline or an offensive coordinator made a call, and Peyton legitimately just went against it and called his own player. He did his own drive, whatever you want to call it. So that's, I guess, where he's kind of taking the reins. I'd never heard of Drew Brees stepping on Sean Payton's toes and being like, "I got this drive, Sean. Fuck you,"
I'm sure. It happened.
I'm sure.
But
he probably has.
It just didn't hear of it, right? Because, I mean, Drew Brees wasn't a big enough star when he was in LA. Well, I guess he was in San Diego. But Sean Payton comes from a coaching tree that you keep shit in-house. So even if he trumped him, they would have just kept it in-house. Mm. And I can almost guarantee that something like that has happened. But I could see Drew Brees as a college coach. I don't see him as an NFL head coach, but would it surprise me one day that guy coaches Purdue Boilermakers? No, it wouldn't shock me at all.
My
In
only
fact-
question is, sorry, go ahead. You get finishing.
I was gonna say, in fact, I think it's highly likely that one day he'll be a college coach.
I think right now it's one of those things he could be in that weird transition phase because like he's now out of the game. I know you're laughing. I just don't think he's ready to coach yet because he still maybe wants to play. That itch could still be there, and so like at this point, it's just I only want to work with guys who I know that are at my level.
Right.
And like him going down to coach college kids, he might not be ready to simplify the game enough for them. So guy like Russell Wilson, cool.
Yeah.
And maybe he doesn't want to go against what Sean Payne's already told Jameis too. We don't know that. We don't know the actual background behind it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know who the new offensive coordinator is in Seattle. I know that Russell handpicked him, but there may be some kind of connection there too. Like you're getting a new offensive coordinator. Maybe I have an inside, like how this guy runs his plays or whatever. So
it's possible. I mean, it's possible that something like this has happened every single offseason since Russell Wilson was 20, and it only comes out now because it's allowed to come out now, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. The other thing that is kind of big that's going on right now is the NBA playoffs, which I'm not going to – this is not me saying, yeah, let's jump on the NBA playoffs. Let's figure this out. But there is a few things that are kind of sticking out to me that I wanted to talk about. So,
okay.
First things first. The Lakers, the Jazz, and the Clippers all lose game one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which one of those three teams is most likely to get rolled in the first round?
Well, I think it's going to be the Clippers of those three. I think Utah. The only reason that they lost that game, Donovan Mitchell didn't play. And he was irate about not being allowed to play game one. So if they let him play the rest of the series, he's going to have a point to prove. And having Donovan Mitchell back on the floor, even if he's at 80% of what he was before the injury, that's a better team than Memphis. Absolutely, 100%. So I think Utah can win that series. I think that LA can win their series. Did you watch any of that game one, by the way?
Which one?
The Lakers series? No? I think I mentioned it before. I'm so over LeBron James's antics. He had a flop last night. He got boxed out by Chris Paul. Okay, so a routine box out. But LeBron goes up for the rebound, and as he goes up, pretends to fall and his shoulder gets hurt and he rolls around on the ground for seconds at a time. Can't get lifted up by Chris Paul because he's hurting. You watch the replay, he literally, nothing happened. He caught his fall. He went about 2 feet in the air to jump to try and get the rebound. These antics are killing the NBA. And I'm not the only guy complaining about this. Even LeBron fans are starting to see this crap and they're waking up to it. So for the sake of the NBA, I hope the Lakers actually get knocked out early. Nobody wants to watch that flop show. We talk about it every 4 years about the World Cup and the flop fest you see there, and we're seeing it game in and game out now from LeBron digging for calls, and he's getting them. It's disgusting.
Right. Well, the guy's 265 pounds, so it takes a lot to knock him over. So for him to just be falling all over the ground, like it's an embarrassment.
Exactly. Against Chris Paul, against your buddy. Your buddy boxes you out, and that's what you're going to flop like? I think that's childish. I don't even know how he could even, when Chris Paul went to go lift him up and he couldn't, I'm too hurt. That's even more pathetic that you try to make your friend think that he actually maybe hurt you, right?
Yeah. That's bitch.
Yeah.
Chad, what do you think of flopping?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah. So for me, I think that it's an unfortunate draw for Utah. They might be facing the hottest team right now.
Yeah.
And what Memphis is doing and the way that their roster is constructed, and they have like 12 top guys from college in the last 2 or 3 years. And I've never seen an NBA roster built like that. I think that they're built to win. They're hot. They don't even know that the stuff that they don't know. So nothing is in their head. By no means am I saying that Memphis is going to sweep the Jazz, but it wouldn't surprise me if Memphis wins in 6.
Ooh. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the Blue Jays. And obviously you guys got to see a little bit of Blue Jays today, maybe? They had
Not
a
today.
they had
I
a
did not
random.
watch the game today. I did see that Vladdy did hit a or a tied up shot, right?
Yeah, and ultimately, like what's happening right now is, they they're on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, they're
Now,
falling hard right now.
yeah, and they're falling hard not because the guys are playing poor. It's been a couple of errors, but really, it's just been horrible guys coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah,
So,
the 6th through the 9th inning has been the Achilles heel for the Blue Jays this year, right?
well, they were tied 5-5 going into extra innings today. They lost 14-8.
Holy hell! In
Yeah.
extra innings?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw the game yesterday, but they were up by 1 in the 9th inning, and they walked consecutive batters 5 times to give Tampa a 2-run lead, and they lost. I mean, like the one guy, he wasn't even close on his pitches.
I saw this. It was an Instagram story of a friend of mine whose kid is only about 8 years old, who's standing. If this pitcher walks one more player and he walks him, and the kid goes, "I'm done. I'm not watching." He's only, like I said, 8 years old. He grabs his iPad and marches off to the bedroom. Poor
Yeah.
kid.
Oh yeah, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
What a time to be a Blue Jays fan.
You know, the thing about it is, so even after a 6-game losing streak, they still float at 500. So that is okay. Nothing that happened in the past week has killed their season. Today, they showed that maybe the players have a little bit more heart than anybody would have given them credit for, because they were actually down 5-0 before they even came up to bat today.
Oh, wow.
There was a grand slam in the first inning.
My question is now the time to get rid of one of these few kids to get some pitching?
100%, and that's exactly what I was going to ask you guys next. Is you guys have been on here with me, listening to me whine about how Bo Bichette is not a shortstop and how they don't have anybody to play third. But I think that they can overcome all that stuff if they just go and find a couple of quality bullpen arms and a starter or two. Now, they have a couple of good prospects in Buffalo, like Pearson, and there's another guy that just kind of appeared out of nowhere this year. But that's not the answer, right? Like they need to get a couple of decent
pitchers now.
guys that you're not going to call them a stopgap, but that's really what they are. They need to be good for the next 2 years until you can get your guys up.
Sounds like Toronto baseball. That's unfortunately like it's the division that they're in. That's what they're playing every 3 years is stopgap baseball to try and keep up with the Yankees and the Red Sox, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, let me tell you about the division that they're in. I'm going to give you 2 numbers here. So, one is 11, and the other one is 6. And those aren't just random numbers. That's how many the Tampa Bay Rays have won in a row, and the Yankees have won in a row. So if you were ever going to go on a run and lose 6 straight, you probably don't want the first place team in your division to win 11 in a row.
Yeah.
Like it's not not a mathematician, but that doesn't really add up. And even like there's a couple teams that are hot right now, so I'll go into that. So Tampa's got 11 in a row. San Diego's got 9 in a row. The Dodgers have 7 in a row. Yankees have 6 in a row. Which one of those teams is peaking too early?
I don't know that any of those guys. Oh, Tampa, actually. I'll say Tampa. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's not going to be sustainable all the way through for all of them, right? So, Chad, what do you think? Like, who's peaking too early?
I'd probably go with Tampa at the end of the day. The other teams that they have their pitching staff to go deep. San Diego has their infield alone is an all-star team.
Yeah, well, have you seen Tatis over the last 5 games? Have you seen his?
I get
his
the
line?
updates on my Bleacher Report every single day.
Yeah, so
I think he has his own category.
He has 5 home runs and 15 hits over the last 5 games.
How is that even real? Like, and he's not even like I'm used to hearing that with guys the size of Mike Trout or Bonds back in the day, McGuire. He's not a gigantic player. You know what I mean? He's certainly athletic. But what the hell? How does that happen overnight? It seems like.
Oh, I want to jump in really fast before I forget this point. I saw an article today that said Connor McDavid is the Mike Trout of hockey.
the Mike Trout of hockey.
That's a
because their
good.
teams because their teams both fucking suck,
Yeah.
and it's just wasted talent. That was the article I saw today. I wanted to get that in there before I forgot.
Yeah, and you guys are going with that. I'm going to tell you that I think that the Dodgers are peaking a little bit too early, and I'll tell you why. They have a bunch of guys that are used to winning. They have a bunch of guys that are prepared to win. But if you get on too hot of a streak right now and you don't really have a ton to play for in September, you're going to start to lose your rhythm. You're going to kind of lose your focus a little bit. And that doesn't bode well when you walk into baseball with a 3-game series. So I would say to a team like the Dodgers, don't get too big of an advantage. And don't get, well, obviously it's not, they don't have a big advantage on San Diego because San Diego's out there crushing it too. But don't get yourself into a position where you have nothing to play for in September.
Mm-hmm.
But
One hell of a back and forth there between San Diego and LA, though. My God.
yeah,
Wow,
well, hey,
that's just a bloodbath of a division too, huh?
baseball needs that rivalry because those games are happening at 10 o'clock at night too, right? Like you need a reason to stay up to watch baseball at 10 o'clock at night. And right now, those two teams are giving it to you.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that one goes. Did you guys watch any of the fights this weekend?
I watched the co-main and the main. So I watched the girl fight, which that was a good fight, man. She fucked her. Did you watch the shot?
I was sleeping. You should know
So-
that by now.
Solid elbow right to the top of the fucking forehead, and then she had her on the ground just feeding it good shots. The ref had to call it TKO kind of thing. And then I watched Corey's fight. Corey, right? Cody's fight. It's a shame he lost. He did lose that one, unfortunately. I'm not a fighter by any means, but like, did you have any chance to watch any of the highlights at all, Chad?
I saw some of them, and like it just looked like Font was but a split second ahead of him.
Yeah,
Like he had his number every time he threw a punch. He had his number.
Yeah, and it seems like he took a lot of hits, right? Like little jabs. Like he just sat there just taking them almost. And is that not giving up points?
It is, yes. Cody's actually a phenomenal boxer. I didn't watch the fight, so I'm not going to sit here and try to diagnose because I did not see it. I'll sound like an asshole. But yeah, if you're giving up jabs and taking jabs, either you're mistiming it or you're trying to throw counter punches. And if you're not landing those counter punches, yeah, you're not winning the battle at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, from what I saw, it looked like Font was a split second ahead of him. And in fighting, that makes all the difference, like every other sport at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like boxing, fighting. We see it in football, hockey all the time. Like a tenth of a second is like that's a massive difference at that level of any sport.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like so, if you can't time the jab, and they keep playing with that timing on you, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And so that kind of is what happens. And all the judges I saw gave it to Font. It was a 49-46, 50-45, 50-45. So that's a pretty decisive win. And Cody's in a tough spot. Like he was a champion, as Brandon told us on the weekend. Unfortunately, we didn't get that video out. And he is a phenomenal fighter. I think he's kind of I wouldn't say he's at a standstill in his career because like he's still super young. But like he's only fighting top 5 guys. So there's no easy fights for a guy like Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's gonna have to really figure out where he's gonna take his game to the next level. Or else, yeah, you're gonna be going back and forth, swapping wins between 4 to 3. And a guy like Cowboy Cerrone did that for years, and unfortunately now his career is over. But and Uriah Faber did the same thing when he was in his run. You were always a top 5 guy, but you were never a top guy. Yeah, like how many times do you want to fight for a title and lose? How many times do you want to fight the number 1 contender and lose? And it's a tough spot to be in because like there's only one champion to put in a weight class. No one cares if you're the number 1 contender for 5 years in a row. And so he has to kind of figure out how to get his game to the next level. What the next, like, pick your opponents better maybe. But once you get to fight in the top 2 guys, you don't get to pick what opponent you get. You have to beat the number 1 contender to get to the champ. And if you can't beat the number 1 contender, that's on you. You got to did some soul searching, and maybe it's time to change camps, change homes, figure out where the lack thereof in your game is, and you have to address that and find out if it's really for you, if this is what you want to do.
Right. Well, I'm sure that he'll have a quick turnaround, and he'll probably have another fight this year. So hopefully that one gives him a better outcome. So we'll wish him luck for that. But other than that, boys, that's all I had. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to chat about?
Just make sure that when you're hitting Cool Bet that you're using the deposit code going for 2, right?
Yeah, and always make sure that you're liking and subscribing to the YouTube. And I mean, that's just kind of a given, but we appreciate the support on there. We appreciate the support that we're getting from everybody. So keep that coming our way. If you have comments or anything, let us know what you think, and let us know what we can change, because we know that Chad's not perfect, but he's happy to be. He's happy to change.
Done it more than once.
All right, boys. Well, cheers, and we'll catch up later this week.
Cheers.